All right, hi everyone. We're here in our kitchen and today we're going to be learning about fruits and seeds, and I have 24 fruits for us to try to identify. All right, so let's do a quick run through of the fruits we have here so you can see what we have. Pineapple, watermelon, cucumber. Now, cucumber is a fruit, not a vegetable, so is corn. Corn is also a fruit. We have an orange, mango, bell pepper, lime. This is a peach, avocado, apple, kiwi. I have some red rice, brown rice, wheat berry, peanut, sunflower seed, grape, tomato. This is a pea, snap pea, a raspberry, a strawberry, a blueberry, and a blackberry. Okay, so biologically speaking, a fruit is any plant product that came from an ovary of a flower. So things that we buy at a grocery store that we might not call a fruit, like a cucumber or like rice or like peanuts, those are actually fruits because they are coming from the ovary of the flower as it develops after the fertilization happens. So botany speak, biology speak, a fruit is something from a plant that comes from a ovary after fertilization. It does not mean what grocery store speak what we call a fruit. Like most of us would probably not call in grocery store speak a rice a fruit or a tomato a fruit, but it does come from an ovary, and so we would classify it as a fruit. All right, when identifying fruits, the first thing you want to do is ask how many flowers went into developing the single fruit. So all here are single fruits, and all but one of them came from one flower. So like this apple, one apple came from one flower. This avocado, this one avocado came from one flower. So the only one here that did not come from one flower is the pineapple. Pineapple is called a multiple fruit because each of these little sections actually is each a flower, or was a flower, that the fruits, the ovaries swell together to form a single fruit. So this is called a multiple fruit. Okay, so now that we have all the fruits that are formed from a single flower, and the next thing in fruit identification is you have to know how many ovaries went into making the fruit. So a single flower can have multiple ovaries. And in our remaining 23 fruits, because we've already gotten rid of the pineapple as a multiple fruit, so now in our remaining fruits, we got to look and see which ones are single flower, but that single flower had multiple ovaries. So single flower with multiple ovaries are called aggregate fruits. And the blackberry is an example of an aggregate fruit. So is the raspberry. And in addition, the strawberry. So these three, what we would, in everyday language call berries, strawberry, raspberry, blackberry, in botany language are actually called aggregate fruits. One flower with multiple ovaries that develop to create these fruits, with each of those little sections being one swollen little ovary. All right, so we've gotten the classification of the multiple fruit and the aggregate fruit. The next thing in fruit classification is knowing if the fruit body that we would see comes from just the ovary and just the ovary, I guess, or does it have also some accessory plant tissue, like sometimes the receptacle grows up and over the ovary, kind of encapsulating the ovary. Remember, the receptacle is the very bottom of the flower that kind of holds everything, all the parts of the flower at the base. So sometimes that receptacle grows up and around, and so we have one example of an accessory fruit, and I think it might surprise you. All right, which one do you think is the accessory fruit? Cucumber, orange, avocado, apple, tomato. It's the apple is an accessory. Let's cut open the apple so you can have a look on the inside.
So what we see here, the part of the apple we eat is actually swollen receptacle. So if we look at the apple the way it grows on the plant, this is the stem here, and the receptacle grows up and around, and the part of the apple that has this line, it's really hard to see, but that line that surrounds the core right in here, that's actually where the ovary starts. So the ovary is that line around the core, and then this is the top of the flower, so those are the remains of the flower up there. These are probably anthers. So this is called an accessory fruit because most of the fruit body is this tissue here, which is actually the receptacle growing up and around the ovary.
Well, everything that's left is a single flower with a single ovary and does not have accessory tissue making up the fruit. So these are what we call simple fruits. The next question you want to ask yourself is the simple fruit dry when it's mature, or is it fleshy? Does it have moisture when it's mature? And so we're gonna look at which ones are dry. Okay, so I've made a pile. Those are all the remaining fleshy fruits. And on this little paper towel here are all of the dry fruits. Now you might be wondering why the snap pea is considered dry, and that's because it's technically not mature yet. A mature fruit is the stage of the fruit when it would be used for seed dispersal, and we harvest these peas so that we can eat them before they're mature. But once they're mature, they would be a dry bean pod. So these are considered our dry fruits. So once you have your dry fruits, then you ask, does it have multiple seeds? And so let's just look at our dry fruits and see which ones have multiple seeds. All right, our dry fruits with multiple seeds are the snap pea here and the peanut. All of the rest of these are going to have a single seed. So any fruit that is simple, that has is dry when mature, and has multiple seeds is considered a legume. So this pea here is a legume, and this peanut here is a legume. Peanuts are technically not nuts. Peanuts are legumes. Another example of a everyday kind of language, not really being the same as the biology, botany kind of language. Peanuts are cool because they're legumes that grow underground, and beans, of course, grow above ground. All right, so we've got our simple dry fruits that have a single seed. Remember that the fruit is the ovary part of the flower, well, what was the flower, and the seed is the ovule part. So inside the ovary, there's the ovule has the eggs, and after pollination and fertilization, that ovule will develop into the new baby plant, which we call a seed. So we're left here with this simple dry fruits with a single seed. I've got a sunflower seed, some black rice, I don't know if you see it, some red rice, and some wheat berries. So now you have to ask yourself, is it really impossible to tell the difference between the fruit part and the seed part? Are they so interwound to each other that actually they look like just one and the same thing? Because if so, that's called a grain. Grains are types of fruits where the seed and the fruit itself have kind of fused so much that you can't even tell them apart. And grains are the fruits of grasses. So things like wheat and corn are grasses, and their fruits fuse with the seeds so much that you can't tell them apart. So in our example, the grains would be the black rice, the red rice, and the wheat berry. Oh, I forgot one. There's one too. The corn is grain too. So corn is also a grain. Maybe you're wondering why corn is a grain. And that's because corn, we eat it, like I said before with the peas, we eat corn before it's technically a mature seed. So you've probably seen dried corn, like around Halloween time, you can buy that dried corn for decorations. That's actually what mature corn looks like. And that's what it looks like when it is used for germinating a new corn plant. But we eat corn that is still fleshy, but technically it is considered a dry fruit because at maturity it is dry. It's a simple fruit, it's dry, and it's a grain because the fruit and the seed have fused so much that you can't even tell them apart. So the last thing you want to do when classifying the dry simple fruits, so these are fruits with a single flower, single ovary, single seed, and now you ask yourself, does the fruit separate, or can it be easily opened to get the single seed inside? If it can, then you're left with what is called an achene. If you can't, then you're looking at a nut. Nuts, by definition of botany, not by definition of grocery stores and kind of everyday language, but by definition of botany, a nut is a simple dry fruit with a really thick outer shell. And that is the ovary that has hardened over time so much that it's nearly impossible to open by hand or your teeth. It's pretty hard. I didn't buy any nuts because I'm allergic to nuts. And so, you know, I like you guys, but I just don't want to die for you. So I didn't buy any nuts, but I'll show you some pictures of nuts at some point. You know what they look like. The achene is a simple fruit with a shell, but the shell can be pretty easily opened. And so something like a sunflower seed is considered an achene. So it's a fruit. This was the ovary of the flower. The outer shell part was the ovary of the flower. And on the inside, what we call the seed was the ovule that has that was fertilized and now is the baby plant that is going to be eaten by me. All right, we're left with our simple fleshy fruits. So these are all fruits that had a single flower, a single ovary, that have developed into have fleshy, kind of juicy insides. The first thing you want to ask yourself is how many seeds are inside of the fleshy fruit? Is it one or is it many? All right, I've done my sort. I have 3 fruits here that have a single seed on the inside, a peach, a mango, and an avocado. And I have this group of fruits here that are all fleshy and have multiple seeds on the inside. So let's focus on these guys. These are called drupes. Drupes are fruits that are fleshy and have a single seed on the inside. So let's look inside a drupe. All right, I've cut open a couple of my drupes. Mango wasn't ripe yet, so I'm gonna leave it. But you can, this avocado and this peach, all of that deliciousness is ovary. And actually this outer kind of, if we break open the seed here, this kind of outer skin here of the avocado, that's technically part of the ovary too. Same in the peach. When you look at the peach pit, there's like this hard outer part and then an actual seed on the inside of that hard part. So that's the peach seed inside the kind of hard shell of the pit, the stony pit. And that hard outer shell of the peach is technically part of the ovary. And same here, this is the avocado. This kind of papery layer of the avocado is technically part of the ovary. And then this is all seed. And here, when I cut it open, you could actually see the baby avocado plant. These are the plumules, the tiny little leaves. These are the first of the leaves, the plumule of the baby avocado plant if we allowed it to germinate. All right, everything we're left with here is a single flower, single ovary, just flower parts, just ovary, no accessory parts of the flower. For example, no receptacle. These are all fleshy fruits, not dry, and they all have more than one seed, so they're not drupes. The drupes were fleshy fruits with just one seed. So here we are with these guys. These are all, botanically speaking, berries, which seems so weird because you want to think of raspberries a berry, and you want to think of blackberries a berry, and you want to think of strawberries a berry because their name says berry. But guess what? No, Biology likes to name things in a confusing way, and so these things are berries. But the blueberry is a berry. That's the one example of a true berry. But the strawberry, not a berry. The blackberry, not a berry. The raspberry, not a berry. So the next thing you want to do with the berries is ask yourself, does this berry have a rind? If not, it's just a regular old berry. If it does have some kind of rind, some kind of outer part of the fruit, then we're going to classify it a little bit further. So let's pull out our regular berries and look at what's left.
All right, so these 5 fruits here are all considered berries. Wacky, I know, but you know, I don't make up the rules here. And that leaves these 4 fruits, and which are also berries. We're just going to classify them a little bit further. And they are classified because they have an outer kind of rind, and then you classify based on, is the rind leathery and peelable, like you see here in the orange and in the lime. These are called Hesperidium. Or is the outer rind not easily peelable, like you have in the watermelon and cucumber? And those are called Peppo. All right, everybody, look at all these fruits we classified. There's a whole 24 groups of fruits that we classified. We started with the question, how many flowers? The multiple fruits are composed of the result of many flowers all kind of fusing together to create one fruit. Then we said, okay, all the rest have one flower, but does that one flower have one or multiple ovaries? And our aggregate fruits are fruits that have multiple ovaries. So single flower, but many ovaries within that flower. So you get the strawberry, raspberry, and blackberry, but remember, berry is a misnomer. All the rest, after the aggregate fruits, all the rest are single flower, single ovary, and then the next distinction is it just ovary and seed, or do you have some accessory tissue there, like in the palms, where you get the receptacle growing up and over the ovary? So I cut open the apple, you can see it's darkening here. That line is where the ovary actually starts, and everything from there on out is receptacle of the flower. All the rest, all of those are single flower, single ovary, no accessory tissue. And then you ask yourself, is the fruit dry or fleshy at maturity? So we have the legumes, the greens, and the achenes, and nuts, but I don't have any, that are dry at maturity. The legumes are dry fruits that have multiple seeds. The greens are dry fruits at maturity that have fused, the seed and the fruit have fused so much that you can't take them apart, and they come from grasses. Grains are a type of fruit. The achene is a dry fruit that has a single seed that can be kind of easily removed from a hard shell. And the nuts, which I don't have, are the dry fruits, single seed, that have super hard, really thick ovary walls. Those would be considered the nuts. Things like a cashew nut and a hazelnut. Interestingly enough, something like an almond and actually even a walnut is actually a drupe. Drupes are fleshy fruits that have a single seed on the inside. In the case of almonds, the fleshiness gets ripped off the fruit in processing and we're just left with the seed. But almonds and walnuts are technically not nuts, they're drupes. So there's our drupes. And then all the rest are the fleshy fruits with multiple seeds, and they are all berries. So everything that's here is considered a berry. And like I said, berry in biology means something very different than berry in the grocery store, and you know how to make up the rules. And so we have our berries that do not have a thick rind, a tomato, a grape, blueberry, kiwi, and bell pepper. And we have our berries that have a thick peelable rind. Those are the Hesperidiums, the citrus fruits. And lastly, we have our berries with a non-peelable rind, multiple seeds. These are our Peppos. I hope you learned something about fruits and their classifications. And we love fruits. And now let's eat.
fleshy ovaries.